Hello YouTube, welcome to my channel, Anna Bella, and today I'm going to be doing a book but also a BBC TV series review. Currently on BBC One and on BBC iPlayer are the 3 episodes of The Pursuit of Love, which is written by Nancy Mitford. I, in my hand, have Ons and Rebels, which is written by Jessica Mitford. I also have in my possession, weirdly enough, the obituary of Debo, Devonshire, also known as Deborah Mitford. Why are we watching or reading books written by peers' daughters? Well, the Mitford family are incredibly famous. There were 6 sisters and 1 boy, Tom. Ignore Tom, he unfortunately gets a bullet in his neck and dies in Burma. That's all you have to know about him. There are 6 very, very interesting sisters, all of whom never went to school. They never went to school. Tom went to Eton. Says it all, really. Okay. Now, let's get it right because we don't want to get the names wrong, do we? There was Nancy, Pamela, Diana, Unity, Jessica, and Deborah. Deborah, as we know, became the Duchess of Devonshire and refurbed Chatsworth House. No small thing. Jessica Mitford became a socialist and emigrated to America. Age 17, she eloped. Unity was a fascist and fell madly and had a deep appreciation for Adolf Hitler, went off to meet him in Berlin. Weirdly enough, Deborah was there as well. And unfortunately, when Germany declared war on Britain, Unity shot herself in the head and unfortunately had complications from that and eventually died. So that's Unity. It is absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. There was Pamela. Diana married Oswald Mosley, the British fascist leader, and ended up in prison for the rest of the war. The books go from like 1930 to the beginning of the war and the end of the war. The Pursuit of Love, which is written by Nancy Mitford, is fiction, but it is heavily based on Ons and Rebels, which is written by Jessica Mitford, and several of the other books written by the other sisters. The sisters had their own language. They shared a love of hanging out in cupboards. They were governed by governesses, but very poorly. They were hunted by their father, whose bloodhounds were trained to slobber them in kisses. It is the most unusual family. Okay, back to The Pursuit of Love. There are 3 episodes. In the first episode, it basically covers the childhood of the Radletts, which is basically the Mitford family reformed and fictionalised, which is hugely interesting and slightly comical. Like any good TV show, it starts at just before the end, as you do. So we start with one cousin picking up another cousin, taking her in the car, going back home to the big house because the war's on and we want to gather everybody in the big house just in case we get bombed and the German Huns come. Not my words, their words. Remember, 1930s, 1940s language is infused. It's almost like a time capsule. This book particularly, if you read it, and I suspect it's the same in The Pursuit of Love, which is a book by Penguin Books, which I haven't read. I have watched the 3 episodes by the BBC. A lot of people have complained about them because they didn't like them. They said it was too quick, it was too stilted, and it was boring. The first episode is boring. As it says in Deborah's obituary, she remembered her childhood as boringly happy. That was Deborah. Decca, known as Jessica, remembered it being the same. They didn't go to school. Their father did not believe in it, the real father. Also in The Pursuit of Love, the father did not send his girls to school. Instead, he liked them uneducated because it made them, I don't know, easier to control. Who knows? Probably he was saving all his money to send Tom to Eton, which was a whole waste of time because he got shot in the neck and died in Burma. Hey-ho. His girls, however, went on to write books. But it just shows you don't have to have an education to write a book, I guess. Who knows? So, The Pursuit of Love, episode 1, people get introduced with a lovingly tagline. Lord Merlin's, we're going to get to him, save him on a shelf, we will get to him. I know what you're waiting for. There. In short, the first episode is a bit boring, and it's supposed to be, because they're counting down the hours to a thing called a debutante's ball. Now, in upper class societies, they would have a debutante's ball, the woman would come out, and then she would be out in society. She would be able to go to tea with friends if she was chaperoned. Men would be able to take her out if they were chaperoned. She would be able to go out and see the world before getting married. And that's exactly what Linda's elder sister does. She marries a 45-year-old peer of the realm who sits in the House of Lords. Quite young for a peer of the realm, if you ask me. And yes, there are builders. Such is life. I'm just going to plough. So that's the first episode. Second episode, life happens more for Linda. Lord Merlin, he had a wonderful entrance in episode 1. We don't need to go there anymore. Played by the wonderful Andrew Scott of Sherlock fame, who played Moriarty. Lord Merlin, he desperately wants... He's an artist, philanthropist, patron of the young, musician, you name it, he's done it. There is wonderfully some gender bending going on here, because people's relationships were very intense, and you do feel the intensity of the relationships, particularly in Jessica's book Honours and Rebels, and I'm presuming The Pursuit of Love, and I'm presuming in all the other Mitford materials it will be there. These 6 girls knew each other. They spent a lot of time in a cupboard. They even had their own language. The Ons Club, which is written about in The Pursuit of Love, was real. They lived in a very, very closed bubble of the upper class, and they didn't really go out of it. Having Lord Merlin there, he was supposed to get with Linda. You could see that that's where the family were hoping. That's why Davy went up to Linda and asked, would you like me to introduce you? And she was like, no, Davy, our dresses are too bad. And that's also why Lord Merlin invited the 2 girls, Fanny and Linda. Fanny is the cousin who's narrating this, because stuff happens, and her mother, to tea after the party. It's called, you invite somebody to something, they invite you to something else. Tit for tat, da, 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 da. And Lord Merlin is of marriageable age, even though you can see that his eye is a wandering eye, and he's very gender fluid going there, and also person fluid, which is kind of cool. Probably a pansexual. Anyway, he likes chatting. Him and Linda form this bond. He tries to educate her, and it's brilliant. And you can see that he's almost too shy to ask her. There was that scene on the bridge, and I thought that was beautifully done, where he leaves Linda looking longingly at these beautiful things, as almost he can tell she's not going to fall in love with me, but I wish she kind of would. But that's my interpretation. Second episode, stuff happens. There's communism and there's fascism. There's communism and fascism. Basically, in upper class society, there was 2 big political wheels happening from the 1930s during the 1940s, obviously. Fascism, the rise of it, and the rise of communism. And people were choosing sides. That's why Britain ended up with an NHS, British socialism, blah, 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 etc., etc. Fascism didn't do too well, as we know, because Germany lost World War II. We're not going to go down that route. So all of this, The Pursuit of Love, first 2 episodes, happens just in the lead up to the Second World War. Uncle Matthew fought in the First World War, and you can see that he's got post-traumatic stress disorder. He's shell-shocked because of the business with the whips. It's very eccentric, British upper-class people. You just sort of look and go, really, why on earth? But hey-ho. So second episode, really, really good. You've got chatters, you've got communists, you've got all of this stuff happening, and you just sort of, and I fully get why a lot of modern people have gone, how on earth is this relevant to me? I don't understand it, don't get it, I'm switching it off. And a lot of people did do that. I, however, liked it because it was an updated period drama set in a really interesting time. I'm loving Lord Merlin with the art influence coming through. Third episode, we go to Spain to save the Spanish communists, to get them out, to go to South America, because Spain has been taken over by Mussolini's fascism. Yeah, the fascism in Europe. You really do see Linda's growth. I love it when she's running that communist bookstore. Her first husband is useless. I have no idea why she married that man. Besides his money, it was pointless. I love Lord Merlin for coming to rescue her after the birth of the first child. Brilliant. I really enjoyed it. For me, it was 5 out of 5. For other people, they've absolutely hated it and it's just been slaughtered. I want to keep this review up to under 12 minutes, so I'm going to kind of wrap up now. The ending is sad. The ending is tragic. Not going to spoil it. In all honesty, Linda should have got with Lord Merlin. He was in the book. he always is annoyed that he's either not there when Linda has these dramatic moments and she decides to leave her husband, or she just decides to leave her second husband, or she decides to hook up with somebody else. He kind of is almost, because he gives her that house in Chelsea to live in, he educates her, you kind of see where it's naturally leading. He's waiting to ask her to marry him. You can see it unfold, and then by the end of it, all he gets is that dog, that lovely French bulldog from her. It is sad, it's a sad ending, but it's also kind of hopeful. But it's, yeah, I enjoyed the novel. It is a reflection of what life was like for one particular family and how people were treated at the time. And it's interesting, you have this notion of bolters, people who just leave the family's responsibilities. It was very common in the upper classes. It happened to Lady Diana Spencer. Her mother bolted, and Diana never got over it. She was a 5-year-old left on the stairs as her mother bolted, and she remembers avidly waiting and waiting for her to come. She never came back. And stickers, they were women who got married and supported their husband and ran the household and knew how many flowers that they were going to need. Debo ran Chatsworth and improved it and sold toilet seats made of wood from the woods of Chatsworth, etc., etc. It was a very different time. There is no university mentioned here. There is no education, because that's not what women did in the 1930s, 1940s. They grew up, and when they were old enough and from a certain class, had a ball, and then they were out into society, and then they were to support men. That's basically it. I enjoyed this book, but then again, I like history. I also enjoyed The Pursuit of Love. Andrew Scott Thomas, brilliant performance as ever. Lily James, yeah, a bit showy, but that's Linda all over. I actually really enjoyed Fanny's portrayal, because you can see the conflicted nature, how she would like to and how she wouldn't. The relationship between Linda and Fanny is almost lesbianistic. It is interesting, and you can see the frustration that Linda has from having a lack of education. If she'd have had more education, you could have seen she would have shone. It's such a shame at the end when you see Lord Merlin dressed in black, because you know that he was going to ask her at some point. It's just terribly, terribly sad. Other people may have other ideas. He may have not. He may have just realised that it wasn't going to be. He was probably with him. Who knows? But that's why he was invited to Linda's coming out party. He was invited because, one, he was new stuff, and Uncle Matthew needed some new, and Davy just looked at Lord Merlin's set and was like, yes, this is good, this is good, this is new. What a set, a man with a comb. Hurrah, we've arrived, type thing. Anyway, I've babbled enough. I'm giving it 5 out of 5. Other people have found it boring and not relevant to their lives, and I fully get that. It can be a turn-off. I enjoyed it. But then again, I like that period, and that period is very much, you're either a fascist or a socialist. Where are you? There is no communists. There is no sort of in between, or you're either one thing or the other. It's the rise of fascism, it's the rise of communism, socialism. There is no conservatism. There's liberal democratism isn't there. Labourism, communism becomes Labour. It's all complicated, but it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I particularly like a scene in this. You've got Unity and Decca. Unity is doing a swastika, carving it into the glass in the window at one end, and you've got Jessica, who's carving a hammer and sickle in one end of this window. It's fascinating. Recommend reading Ons and Rebs. It's a great book. Check out all the fiction written by the Mitfords. It's fascinating because it does encapsulate one time period. Pursuit of Love is a great TV show. I fully get why people didn't like it. They found it boring, irrelevant. What is the purpose, and who are all these people, and how do they connect, and why are these women so ignorant? I fully get why people would feel that way. I've talked too much about this. Like, comment and subscribe, and I do apologise for annoying background noise. That's just life. Thank you so much for the support, and see you soon, and stay safe where you are. Bye now.